Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is, and welcome to episode 44 of Two Guys, Zero Planners. I think it's episode 44. That's what our show doc says, and Urban's pretty good at keeping track of that stuff. So I'm going to go with what he says on that. How you doing, Urban? Long time no talk.
Yeah. So today I think I'll go to bed early. I read until 1:30 in the morning. I want to finish my book. Then my daughter woke me up at 6 in the morning because she was bored. And then I stood waiting for my second vaccination for 3 hours, and it was not super warm, and it started raining at some point. And yeah, so I guess we'll do the podcast and then I go to bed soon. But other than that, I'm good. How about you?
I am going through a fun bout of insomnia right now. It happened to coincide with the 2-month break I'm giving myself from any kind of alcohol. I like to do that and occasionally just abstain for a while. But ever since I have not, like when I first started, I wasn't able to get to bed before 3 a.m. The last 2.5 weeks, I have not been able to fall asleep until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm waking up at noon for work.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Something's going on and I don't know. And I live in America where healthcare is stupid. So I haven't met my deductible for the year. So I really don't want to go seek the help of a professional.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, America, raw. Yeah, healthcare, yay.
Mm.
That's a topic for a much different show. Let's go ahead and just knock out the elephant in the room for a bit. Because we haven't been doing the podcast for a while. And I know I've gotten a couple questions every now and then. Are we still doing it? Have we quit? What's going on? So, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about life, the universe, everything, and maybe how this thing we're doing may change up a little.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I mean, these last months have obviously been kind of hard for a lot of people. And so I haven't been really on holiday for basically since the pandemic, like most people, I guess. And it's just getting super hard. And my wife has been, she's Greek, and as the vaccination program in Germany was a bit slow until, I don't know, recently, she actually went to Greece to get vaccinated because they surprisingly have this better under control and much better organized than what we have here in Germany, which sounds surprising, but that's the way it is. It's really not so cool here. And of course, it was hard for her as well. And then, of course, I said to her, hey, if you're already flying to Greece, why don't you stay, I don't know, a week and sort of take a break? And of course, that was great for her, but not so super great for me. Let's call it like that. Because I didn't want to use up my holidays for that, because we still want to go on a big holiday together, hopefully in Greece in August or something. Yeah, so that was a bit hard. And then I do this other podcast, Expanding Beyond, that Yvgenii is editing for me. And we just have this ongoing schedule that we record every 2 weeks. And that's just sort of a normal part. And sort of it takes up basically one of the spots where I can do podcasts.
Yeah.
So there's already that going on. Yeah. And on top of that, I have also not been really buying stuff, basically. So I think for a long time our show was about what cheap Chinese pen did Orban buy this time.
Yeah, that seems on par.
And I haven't been doing that really because, it was getting a bit boring. And plus now, even those cheap Chinese pens are going to get taxed by customs, and that's just a huge hassle. So I'm even less inclined to try and do that. So
right.
I'm not in this phase of acquiring stuff to see and sort of checking out what's new out there in pens and inks and paper. I'm sort of more into, well, basically using what I have. Yeah, so I haven't really given up on fountain pens. I basically use them every day and all my inks, but it's just I have so much that it will take me a while before I actually want to buy anything new there.
I mean, it's one of those, going back to one thing you said, you and Monica are very good about keeping a schedule. I know for a fact, it's like, okay, we're getting close to time. Urban's going to send me that message that there's files in the inbox. And I'll go ahead and set aside an evening to go ahead and get that knocked out. Like last night, I went ahead and knocked out an edit on your guys' 28th episode. And it's become part of the routine. The biggest thing with Two Guys, Zero Planners, it's in the name, Zero Planners. I think it took us, 3 weeks just to schedule to get together this morning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And I think a lot of it has to do with both of us are kind of non-committal.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where, kind of like Urban, I still buy stuff, obviously, because there's new videos being put up every week on the Inktwell, except for the stuff that Pen Chalet sends for review. So, like the Peniter, the D. Charles, and the Colorverse inks, those were provided. But I'm staring at 10 videos worth of ink that just came in yesterday. And yeah, I mean, $25 worth of ink cartridges. And that's 2.5 months of reviews. So it's like, yeah, that's how my pen purchases go. I still have a Namiki Nippon and a TWSBI VAC 700 that I still haven't reviewed for the channel. So those are two very good fountain pens that will definitely get views that are still on the back burner. So, I mean, if I've got 10 videos of name brand Kaweco ink that is going to generate views like Waterman or Diamine. Oh, yeah. Plus, I've got California Teal and Blue Velvet Cake from Monteverde. So what was that about? Things that'll get views? Right. So pretty much I have what I need for the channel for the next 3.5 months. I don't need any other products. And I'm going through that be a good adult phase where I'm like putting a little bit more into my 401k. I'm paying down the credit cards a little bit further than they are to go ahead and squeak out that extra 3 or 4 points on my credit score. I finally paid off my car. Woo. That was huge.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? My friend told me, like, hey, you're done paying off your car, right? You can quit sending me monthly payments, because he bought it for me when my previous car got totaled. Mm-hmm. Yeah, drunk driver on Thanksgiving. I still think that guy's an asshole. Anyways, yeah, he told me, I think it was last month, he's like, you do realize you can quit sending me payments? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you paid off the car like 6 months early. You're done. I'm like, oh. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, crap. I own it. Now I need to make sure that I can afford another one if it breaks. So
yeah, like being an adult has its downsides.
Yeah. So it's like I'm putting a little extra into my 401k because if I need to, I can always borrow against it to do the down payment for a car. The good thing when we borrow against it, there's a certain part of my 401k that only earns between 4.5% to 5% a year. So if I borrow against that portion, I have to pay it back at 6% interest. And the interest that we pay back at actually rolls back into the 401k. So I earn more by paying back that particular loan than it does by sitting there. It's stupid, but that's why I keep that one part of my 401k around. Because if I have a project that I want to borrow against, I can borrow against it to get the lump sum cash up front and then go ahead and pay it back a little bit quicker on the back end using bonuses or whatever the case may be. Yeah, adult stuff. Anyways, so that's why my pen buying has really slowed down. I've been moving my focus into other areas. And like for notebooks, I've got 30 days left on this Endless Works notebook. And then I'm probably going to pick up another Endless Works notebook. For personal journaling, I've grown accustomed to the quality, at least, that Endless Works puts out in their notebooks. And that's what I like to use for journaling.
You have to enjoy it as long as you can, right? And then when the paper's gone, you'll have to find something else.
Maybe, maybe not.
How many did you buy?
Well, that's the thing I'm debating. I'm debating picking up like 30. That'll keep me busy for about 6 years.
Yeah.
It will delay the inevitable, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm basically using up what I have. Like I have those A5 Hobonichi plain notebooks, which is basically their 4mm grid, but without anything else, and various other notebooks that I have bought basically. And I don't know, it will take me a while, years before I've used everything up, and then I can decide what else I want to use, I guess.
I think I've actually used some of the new Tomoe, because I have gotten some 52 GSM that did not act like 52 GSM that I had gotten in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, but I mean, even that will be stopped, right? I think in September or something.
Yeah, something like that.
We'll see if they're... I mean, on the other hand, there are so many papers out there. I'm not sure it's going to be that bad.
Well, I did look. The Musubi Cosmo Air paper, right now the conversion rates put it at about $42 shipped from Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
For 200 pages, I guess that's not bad. So I don't know. I've got 30 days to make up my mind. I may try that. I may not. I just haven't decided yet.
I've heard that this is sort of very prone to hand oils, that paper. So
yeah,
I don't know. Even worse than Tomoe River.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, I don't like the paper that Rhodia uses for the web notebooks or the goal books. I don't like the paper that Leuchtturm uses at all.
Actually, the new white goal books, that paper is actually pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And it's white and not cream.
Oh, okay. That was my biggest complaint with that paper. I hate cream paper. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I mean, if Midori MD wouldn't be cream, it would be perfect, basically.
Okay. Send me the link for that notebook after the show. I may have to try that, because I don't think I have a Rhodia paper video on the channel. I wonder if that would do good on views.
Yeah, I'll have to see. I'm not sure if it's yet available in the US.
I will find a way.
Kimberly is the person to ask, I think.
Well, I asked you, so I'm going to stick with that.
All right.
I mean, it's to the point where, like, I've got a package of 10 Rhodia dot pads sitting in front of me for the channel. I've already stocked up on that paper. I also have this Tomoe River Musubi notebook that I don't even think I'm halfway through it yet.
Yeah, those are huge. That's true, yeah. I've used up one as a journal, and I have a second one.
Okay, I stand corrected. I'm a third of the way through. So, yeah, paper-wise, pen-wise, I'm good for a bit. But it's like, yeah, I'm editing Expanding Beyond. I'm doing the YouTube channel. I'm focusing on adult stuff. I've started gaming again, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started a gaming channel.
Okay.
Which is also weird.
Yeah, and I have 5 fish tanks and 2 guinea pigs.
I know, right? By the way, I disagree with you on one thing. On the last episode of Expanding Beyond that hasn't come out yet, or it may come out. I don't know when it's coming out. You mentioned that people can only find you on Twitter. No, they can find you on Instagram. I see your guinea pig stories on Instagram a lot.
That's true, but it's sort of not really work and programming related, right? So that's why I don't really mention it.
Okay, fair enough.
I try to be, in air quotes, professional on that podcast.
Air quotes.
Yes.
No, you don't need the air quotes, okay? You really don't need the air quotes for that. That podcast, with the exception of some of the choice language, is very professional, but you and I kind of both work in environments where I'm pretty sure that language does get used more often than it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't get used that often. I mean, not at work really, but it's not like anybody is going to fall off his chair if you use it, I guess.
Exactly. It's not like you say some of that stuff and then everyone looks like you just brought a chicken into work and decided to go ahead and clean it and cook it right there. Wow, why did I come up with that analogy? That's weird.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I mean, it was one of those decisions where I was playing games with a couple people, and I was like, I've got all this overkill recording equipment that I just use for fountain pens. Why don't I use it for gaming? And then I was like, okay, I have my professional life where I'm a good, clean-cut person. I have my YouTube life where I'm a nice, clean-cut person. I have this podcast where the main edit is a nice, clean-cut person. So it's like that. I just want to relax. I don't want to have to think about what I'm doing. I don't want to have to censor myself. I just want to game and show how horrible I am at gaming. So if you watch one of the videos, you feel better about your skill level immediately because you're better than me.
That describes what my kids are watching, I think, on YouTube.
It was also a good excuse for me to get peer pressured into playing games that I never got into as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, one of my friends is running me through the Halo campaigns. And I never got into Halo. That game is 20 years old, at least the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the first campaign. We finished it up last Sunday, literally sitting there gaming for 6.5 hours. And we finished it up. And it's just like, okay, now I get what you guys were talking about. I still don't think the music is iconic. I think you're wrong about that. I think the new graphics that they did in 2011 are much better than the graphics they did in 2001. But it's a good game. I finally understand where Halo comes from, that kind of stuff. And it's been good. It's been good. So how does all that discussion that we just had over the last 20 minutes circle back into what's going on with this show?
I don't know.
Exactly. I kind of sprung this on Urban at the beginning of the show. I was like, hey, let's go ahead and talk about this. This will be fun, not in a bad way.
Yeah, so what I'm definitely not going to give up is FPC for the website. That is really going strong.
Yeah.
And I basically do work on it in a way every day. So there's this, if people enter new inks, then the system has some way of sort of matching it to existing inks so that you, for example, get the original if someone's entered a color for it, you already get that for free. Hopefully I will be able to add a few more features that take advantage of that grouping. And that system is just only sort of half of automated because it's just a bit too complicated to fully automate it. And so I spend, I don't know, at least 5-10 minutes each day to sort of do that grouping.
Right.
With over 2,400 users, there's always something going on.
Yeah.
And it's a bit crazy, actually. It's like over 150,000 inks that people have entered. So if you group them, it's still an amazing number of about 6,800 unique inks in over 400 brands. So that's already pretty crazy. So yeah, this is kind of motivating, I guess. Also because I have over 100 patrons already, and they're basically paying for the complete hosting.
Yeah, and they're paying for podcast editing.
Yeah, I don't know. They're at least paying for a new logo. I will have to integrate that soon.
I say they're paying for podcast editing in one way. Them paying for the web hosting is freeing up money for you to pay me.
I guess so, yeah.
It all trickles downhill. It all trickles down.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
It's one less headache for you.
Yeah, it sort of gives me a bit more breathing room there to say, hey, I want to spend a 3-digit amount on a new logo. That is cool. And I can just do that, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also get to basically spend a Friday every 2 weeks if I'm motivated to basically work on that stuff, because we have this what they're calling Innovation Day at work, and you can basically spend every second Friday on basically anything you want, where if you want to learn something new, if you want to work on one of your projects that sort of don't really need to be related to work, but you generally pick up something there as well. So yeah, so that is actually a pretty nice arrangement.
I mean, honestly, that part's pretty cool. I think you go into a little bit more detail about that Innovation Day on episodes 24 through 27 of Expanding Beyond.
You know that better than I do.
Well, I know it's something that you started discussing towards the middle of May, and you carried it through June. So,
yeah, I guess that whole discussion around what's fine to work in and where do you sort of maybe have to be a bit cautious and not tell work that you're working on something totally unrelated. But I guess they're fine, especially if, as my boss is listening to the podcast, he hears that whole discussion and hasn't said anything. So
that is interesting. Like, nobody I know listens to the podcast that I've done. Well, no one I know at work. So it's kind of freeing knowing that I have a life away from that. But like, if my boss listened to this stuff and was cool about it, that'd be cool too. They think I'm weird for liking fountain pens though. So yeah, I don't see them listening to this anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit more niche, I guess.
A bit more niche? Come on. That's an understatement, my friend. You know that.
Yes, I do that from time to time.
Right.
Being an understatement as well, I guess.
But yeah, I think the long and short of it is I have a hard time scheduling this show because the Inktwell feels like work.
Mm-hmm.
Editing Expanding Beyond is work. I'm being hired to do a job. Because this podcast was initially billed as 100%, we're going to talk about pens. It kind of fell into the same, mentally for me at least, it fell into the same category as the Inktwell, as this is work. This has to have a definitive return on investment or it.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it hard for me to sit here and be a little bit more proactive about scheduling time to record it.
Yeah, and I guess also if you don't sort of have any new acquisitions to talk about too much, then it's kind of hard to say, hey, what are we even going to talk about next time?
And I think that's kind of one of the things. It's like, sure, I want us to still talk about if there's something cool pen related that we've come across, or whatever we're doing. But I don't want to feel pigeonholed into this podcast must be pens, and if it's not pens, then this podcast must not be.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit related to 1857, which is also a different podcast. And they also, I think they started out with a lot of stationery. So one of the hosts owns a stationery business, basically on the side, I would say. And the other one did a YouTube channel for a long time. But these days, they basically talk about anything, which so is sort of I'm not sure there's anything apart from these two guys discussing something that sort of defines the show.
And I mean, I think that's kind of where I want to try to let this evolve, because I know that there are people that don't like the lengthy gaps between our episodes. And I can understand that. I really can. I don't like sitting there saying that I have a current podcast that hasn't released an episode in 3.5 or 4 months. I can't remember how long it's been. And I think maybe that'll help it if we quit thinking about it as this show is a pen show, so pen all the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe embrace the zero planners part of it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of the only time we two talk, basically, right? So
yeah, I mean, we bug each other on Slack, but like, this is the only time that we actually hear each other's voices. And, well, okay, I stand corrected. I hear you and Monica talk quite often, so...
That's true, but it's not quite the same thing.
This is the only time you get to hear me speak English worse than you two speak English.
Only because you're editing it.
No. I mean, this last episode, there were a few more ums than you guys normally do, but it was also a lot more freeform in the thoughts that you were trying to convey. Normally, you guys are a lot more concise and better with the English language than a lot of people I know, myself included.
Yeah, probably in that topic, but not generally.
Yeah, there's so many things. Like, I'm assuming in Germany, the majority of your business is done in German, right? You don't like work your day job in English, or
I do. Because I'm the only German on the team, for example. And my company has there's 36 nationalities. My team is distributed between Germany, Poland, and Turkey at this point. But sort of during the pandemic, my company embraced sort of the standpoint of, hey, you can work from wherever you want to for us, basically. So you can come to the office these days. You can slowly come to the office again, but there are no fixed office spaces, chairs for anyone apart from a few people anymore, and the rest you sort of plan when you want to come to the office to see if there's space, and the rest just work from home. Or at least if you're in the European Union, if you go to a different country, you can also do that, and they sort of have already figured it out. If you stay longer, then here's the paperwork you need to do so that there's no issue for us. So they really have embraced this, which is cool.
Wow. And this was the company that you started at, then you left for a bit, and then you came back.
Yes. I came back because, at least partially because of these changes. Because before that, you sort of had to come to the office each day.
Right.
But even then, in software development, basically everything is in English, I would say.
Things I did not know. Yeah. I actually had no idea.
I mean, there's, especially in Munich, there's so many foreigners. I mean, if the programming language you use to write the code is already in English, then switching for the rest again back to German is a bit weird, especially as everything you read about the languages, about programming, everything at least current is already in English. And if you have a book that's translated, that's at least half a year behind it. That's in such an industry that evolves so fast. That's just
right. I can
be
see
behind
that.
So quickly. That's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's not like being a history major or a literature major where you can wait for a translation of Turgenev or something like that from Russian to English.
Yeah, exactly.
That does make a little more sense. I guess it's just something I never thought about because it's like, okay, I haven't had to learn a second or third language. Okay, I did for high school, but still, I immediately forgot it. And I did again for college, but once again, I immediately forgot it. I think I learned French, Spanish, and Russian. And don't ask me to do any of those three. Like, I can maybe understand you if you speak it, but yeah, good luck.
Yeah, but I guess it's also a bit different because basically the US is bigger than the whole of Europe, and we have so many different languages, and it's just everything is so close together. You just have to learn other languages, right? It's just that's how it is.
Yeah, I guess that's just one thing that we really don't, that I've really never put thought into. Like, okay, so if I go to Texas, I have to learn to speak a little bit more redneck. Or if I go to California, I have to learn to speak a little bit more SoCal chill. But yeah, it's still English at the end of the day. I can travel 3,000 miles from one end of the country to the other. And sure, the guy in Philadelphia may describe a cheesesteak sandwich different than the guy in Los Angeles, but I still know exactly what they're saying because it's all English.
Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of also the advantage of English, right? Because then many people actually speak it, even if you go somewhere else. I mean, maybe not in France, but in other countries.
Well, I mean, then you've got parts of the U.S. where it's like, okay, I know you're doing something that resembles English, but what is it? Especially like if you go to Louisiana and you start hearing some more of the Cajun speak. I apologize for our Louisiana listeners. I've forgotten what it's actually called. It is tough to understand. Yeah. Like, you know they're speaking it, but it's just like, whoa. But yeah, I never thought about that. I figured if you grew up in a country where you had a different primary language, like, sure, if you had to use a language for work, you would just immediately float back to your native language for everything else, like water cooler talk and things of that nature. I wouldn't think that you would stick in the foreign language at that point for your normal conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm at work and I talk to someone who is German, then I speak German to them mainly, right? But there's so many foreigners that basically if you have a meeting with more than one person, the chances are really high that someone doesn't speak German. So it's back to English, basically.
I mean, if we were going to replace English as the business language, which one would we go with?
I mean, Chinese is probably high on the list, right?
Yeah, I just don't want to say the cliche. We all need to learn Chinese for business. I want it to be cool. I want it to be one of the cool languages.
Should we go back to Esperanto?
Yes, totally. Let's bring that back. Let's make it a thing. I mean, come on. It could have worked. All we needed to do was embrace it. Oh, my goodness, man. The things I learned, I just learned something new today that I did not know. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, the whole software development, computers, everything. I mean, that originated basically from the US, right? More or less, at least on the grand scale.
I mean, maybe on the modern front, but I would say computing as a whole more originated in Europe during World War II.
Yeah, okay, but it's a sort of it's not sort of restricted to software development, right? It's also in basically most sciences.
Okay, yeah,
it's
fair enough.
Right? They during that time, physics was in German, basically, right? But these days, it's all in English, and everything is written in English. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, gotta love how we stick our foot in everything.
Yeah, I basically blame the English, but yeah, okay.
Well, now you don't have to blame the English. You can just blame the Americans. Don't use us as an example for healthcare. Don't. Just do not do that.
No. Well, definitely not, yeah.
Yeah, things to not use us as an example for: healthcare, climate regulation, politics in general. Yeah, we're not a good example of those things. Good spending habits. Definitely do not look to America as a whole for good spending habits. That's not our thing either.
Yeah, that's a bit, I don't know how much of a cliche it is, but it is sort of a thing that you can sort of associate with the US, that people sort of consume and spend a lot compared to here in Germany, where basically any loan you have is more or less for a house, and the rest is, well, you don't have the money, so maybe you don't spend it. Well, maybe a car, okay, but other than that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's stupid. Amazon, you can do 5 monthly payments on something. Goulet pens, circling back around the pens for a second. You can use a program called Affirm, which lets you make payment plans based on the level of purchase. So if you really want that hyper expensive, please don't do this. If you want this really hyper expensive Namiki Emperor or whatever that costs $3,600, yeah, go ahead, go to Affirm. Don't do this, please. I cannot stress that enough. Do not put a pen on a payment plan. Just don't.
Yeah.
But that is how spending oriented our country is. Every company almost offers some type of payment plan, and just the amount of debt. If you ignore my student loans, if you ignore the $77,000 in student loan debt for a degree I did not finish, I still have about $6,400 in debt one way or another from stupid mistakes in my 20s where I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a piece of plastic. I'll put it on that and pay it off later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, not everyone is taught this. There's people that are taught good spending habits, but yeah, a lot of our culture is acquire. And yeah, that's kind of why that easily snuck into the, this is my hot take on this. I think that's part of the problem that happened for a lot of us in the pen community. We have that as a society, just here in America, at least, we have this acquisition drive just as a culture.
But I mean, I basically did the same, right? So but instead of buying the really expensive stuff, I bought cheaper pens, but it was still a lot of money I spent on basically acquiring and sort of satisfying that part of my, I don't know if I want to call it needs or whatever, but yeah.
You also shifted out of your acquisition phase a lot quicker than some of the people I know, myself included.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had this habit for a long time in various hobbies to go deep and just spend a lot of money on stuff. And then a few years later, just switch to something else. And I have all this acquired stuff that I don't want or need anymore, which I guess is also not great. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like photography.
Yeah, that was my previous one, but only film photography. But still, right? You spend, again, a lot of money on cheaper film cameras, old ones, but it's still a lot of money. And then you don't, sort of the downside of that is, of course, you always have something new. So you never really get to use what you have already, because there's always the new shiny thing. And then you try it out once and then you say, oh, there's something else. I want to try that. And then you have a lot of stuff and you've never really used that stuff, which is also not that great.
I mean, it's like I'm sitting here looking at 85 millimeter lens equivalents for my cameras for portrait work. I don't do portrait work. Why am I looking at a portrait lens? Oh, because it's camera gear and I have cameras and I want to buy the new shiny for the new cameras. I have a problem.
Yeah, it is. It is sometimes really hard to get out of that.
And the part about photography that makes it easier for me to fall down that rabbit hole is I'm not doing the film camera stuff. If I had the cost of film to hold me back and make me think, okay, I need to be more deliberate about how I'm taking pictures, I think I would be a little bit more spendthrift as well in the bigger purchases like lenses or bodies or things like that. But because it's digital and I can take 3,000 pictures and then pick the 3 or 4 that I like, the numbers aren't that skewed, but still, the fact that I can just do that, it's like, okay, I don't have to think about the time cost or anything else. I really don't. I don't have to think about, well, this one picture I'm getting ready to take is going to cost me X amount of dollars in film, in camera, or anything like that. My mind doesn't process it like that. So it's like, yeah, I can get this 85 millimeter lens and go take random pictures and see what sticks. I can have fun with it instead of, okay, do I do portrait work? Yes or no? Do I need a portrait lens? Yes or no? Does it have any value other than being a portrait lens? Yes or no?
Yeah, but I don't know if you're sort of into a hobby and you sort of you've fallen down the rabbit hole, then I'm not sure. Even with film photography, you would really think that much about it. I think this would still happen sometimes. It's just.
I just wonder what the recovery time from falling down that hole would be.
I mean, these days it's probably a worse hobby to have because the gear gets old. There's not really any film cameras made anymore.
Right.
So it's going to get more expensive as time goes on. I mean, when I started, it was much cheaper than what I see these days. And I probably wouldn't go back because that's too much money for me. So I don't know.
Well, and I mean, like Fuji has announced that they're no longer releasing, I think it's Velvia in the US.
I mean, all their slide films are gone, as far as I know. And some of the other films as well. But on the other hand, Kodak is coming back with a slide film. They had sort of stopped making them. So
I mean, it's just horrible, though. If I want to get actual Velvia film, I have to order it from a non-US market and wait for it to ship in. I can't just get it in the US, except for unless I find some person that managed to stock up on it, in which case I'm going to be paying quite a premium for that. Yeah. Or I could just buy a Fuji X series digital camera and have the Velvia simulation mode.
Yeah, I actually think Velvia isn't made anymore. But
really?
Yeah, I think they just have some stock left, but that's all.
I'll have to double check because that article made it sound like it was still in production.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really keep track anymore, but that's what I heard.
You're probably more right about that than I am.
I might have a few rolls somewhere in a fridge or freezer, I think. I might have to dig them out.
Okay, explain that to me for a second. Film in a fridge or freezer. Now remember, photography, I didn't get into it until digital photography. So this whole thing that you do with film, I don't understand.
All right, so you have this plastic base, and on top of it, you have some multiple layers of gelatin in which you have those silver crystal chemicals, basically. And they just deteriorate. As far as I know, it's not necessarily better to keep it in a fridge or a freezer. The important thing is that the temperature doesn't change. So if it fluctuates too much, then sort of stuff breaks down and the picture gets more and more grainy, basically, because chemical reactions just happen.
Oh, okay. So it's not for the sake of a specific temperature. It's just for the sake of consistency.
As far as I know, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the thing I was wondering here, I just got into this long discussion about putting milk in a freezer with one of my coworkers. I still think he's weird. I don't understand why you would put milk in a freezer. Maybe I'm just weird, but I don't get it. So I was wondering if you were going in some direction like that. So, I mean, if you're just looking for temperature consistency, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that there's some additional benefits if it's stored really cold, but I don't know.
I may have to pick some of the guys' brains in the photography channel over on the Pen Addict Slack and see what their thoughts on it are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, I still can't believe I dropped that much on a stupid game controller without owning a console. Like, I'm holding the controller in my hands right now going, why did I spend money on you when I don't even own an Xbox?
Yeah. And why did you?
I still don't have a good answer for that. I mean, okay, so I started a game channel. The games are on PC for the most part. Like, even the Halo Master Chief Collection is on PC. I'm not even going to be borrowing a friend's console to play any games until we play Halo 5, because it's not on PC. Normally, I use a mouse and keyboard for gaming, so I'm too prideful to return the thing. I gamed with it last night, and it felt amazing. But how was my friend able to convince me to get this controller in under 14 minutes?
So at least you can connect it to your PC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an Xbox controller. So as long as you've got a Windows computer that's running Windows 10, connecting it via Bluetooth is stupid easy.
Okay. So it's not completely useless then, at least.
It's not completely useless, but it's like, okay, I spent money on a 20-button gaming mouse. I spent money on a
0 to 180. How useful is it?
Oh, boy. Okay, so here's the value calculation that I'm going to assign to it. It is $180 right now. How many years will I get use of it? Dibble said he can get 4 years out of his controller before he has to replace it because he plays so many games that he physically wears through the rubber on the control surface.
Okay.
I don't play that much yet. So assuming I get the same 4 years and I got the most recent version of this controller, so it is the most compatible. If it stays compatible and useful for that 4-year period, that breaks it down to $45 per year, just in cost over year. Okay, that's a little bit more doable because your average cheap Xbox controller for an actual Microsoft branded one is about $45. But for those controllers, then you have to include the cost of AA batteries or a charging pack, which if you get the off-brand ones, those do break down about every 1.5 to 2 years. So I have to make this controller now last for 4 years if the game channel doesn't get monetized on YouTube, which means I have to grow subscribers. I have to get watch time. I have to qualify for Google AdSense partnership. Assuming none of that happens, assuming this is just for the sake of gaming, if it goes 4 years, it's worth it. If it doesn't, it's not worth it.
So you have to play video games for 4 years now.
I have to use that controller more than once a week for 4 years. Yes. Yeah. I just entered into a long-term relationship with a piece of technology, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Although I guess the same conversation can be had for the M1 Mac sitting in front of me.
Yeah, but at least those probably last longer than 4 years.
One would hope. I mean, essentially I'm being a guinea pig for the people that haven't gone into the Apple Silicon world yet.
Yeah, my work machine is from 2017 actually, because they didn't have any others at that point. But from I hear from others, it's probably easier to use for what I do than an M1 with all the stuff that's not yet available. So yeah.
Right. I mean, if I ever get fed up with my Mac, I'll just send it to you.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll figure out a trade. I'll take one of your guinea pigs for an M1.
I'm not sure that I want to travel that far. Plus you have dogs. It would be an expensive lunch.
No, my dogs are actually pretty cool with small creatures.
Okay.
They hang out with my mom's birds just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I train my dogs to be definitely not apex predators. They push me around because I'm an easy person to push around. But yeah, with everything else, like right now, they are completely comatose. It is funny. Actually, yeah, she uses that beanbag chair more than I do. Fair enough. As long as she doesn't have hip issues when she gets older, that's all that matters. So, my friend, it was definitely good talking to you again. Long time no talk. We need to not do that. That sucks. Going as many months as we do.
Yeah. How long was it?
I have no idea. It was long enough.
Let's see if I can find it.
Let me pull it up in Overcast.
15th of May was the release date for the last episode.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was longer.
Yeah.
Well, huh. Okay, well, I guess we only skipped 2 months then. For some reason, I thought it was 4 or 5.
It actually is fine. And the episode before that was March and then January. So we are on a schedule, apparently.
Oh, wow. We just had this whole conversation about taking an extremely long hiatus, and we're on schedule with how we normally record.
Yeah. Looks like it, yeah.
Wow. I wonder how many of our listeners are now listening to this going, do they even pay attention to what they do anymore?
Well, that's our brand, right? If we were paying attention, the podcast would have to be called differently.
It definitely would. Oh, by the way, I got a new logo for the YouTube channel.
The pelican bottle with the dog?
Yes.
One? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Sam Be Awesome over from the Knowing Better Discord. Yeah, they don't have a Slack. She did a great job on it, and I think I'm going to have her do a cross between my lab and a Nintendo 64 controller for the game channel. Which, my gamer tag is Yvgenii. Literally, it's a joke from one of the people I was gaming with, but he can't say Yvgenii. It just throws him off. So he calls me Yvgenii, and it's stuck. And that's how I spell it in the show doc.
That's great.
The cool thing is, if you search for that in YouTube, I'm the only thing that comes up. The bad thing, if you search for that in YouTube, you can see that I've only got 4 subscribers right now.
I mean, you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, it all starts somewhere. But that being said, I have 50 minutes to cook dinner, make coffee, get the files put into the appropriate folders, and then go to work.
Yeah, and I have 2 hours before I go to bed, probably. Let's see how the vaccination kicks in, or if it does.
And we'll see whether or not the screaming things I heard in your background audio cooperate.
Yeah, I mean, these days they're just pretty easygoing, but they're still kids.
I mean, at least it's none of the playground sounds that I had to work with last night, which, by the way, those weren't as obtrusive as you said they would be.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they weren't bad. When you listen to the audio, you'll like it. It turned out pretty good. You may end up with a microphone randomly appearing at your house that you have to give to somebody. Just saying.
That bad, huh?
Your audio, because I have pressured you and pushed you and been just an overall jerk to you to force you into having superb audio, is a stark contrast.
I mean, it's amazing. Even one of the founders of my previous company, after I had left, he contacted me and asked about microphones because he was so impressed about my audio quality in the work meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to help. I want to help lower the gap between your audio quality and any potential co-host quality that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And if I've got the extra gear, why not just send it to you? It doesn't bother me. At least that way it gets used.
All right. Sounds exciting.
Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out. But everyone, thank you for joining us apparently on schedule it was fun. Till next time. See you later.
Bye-bye.